Hey guys, I get asked a lot about what lines I use for swim baits, specifically what type of lines. Usually you have three choices. You have monofilament line, you have braided line, and you have fluorocarbon line. The key thing to know about those three types is each one has advantages and disadvantages, and you need to figure out which one works best for you. I'm going to go over braid right quick with swim baits. When you have something with braid, the problem that you have a lot of problems with the braid is digging into the spool. You have a lot of problems when you're throwing these baits, heavy baits. A thin diameter line is digging into the spool when you cast, set the hook on a fish, set the hook on grass, set the hook on a limb or a stump or something. It's digging in. Your next cast is usually going to be a forceful one. And what happens is something's going to break. Usually it's your line and not the bait or the rod or the reel, and it's going to break. That's the problem that I have with braided line. You have another problem with braided line is it doesn't like rocks. If you don't fish your swim baits on rocks, you should be fine. But that's the biggest disadvantage is throwing these 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ounce baits on braided line. It seems to dig into the spool and you get a lot of cast off. You lose a lot of baits. It's expensive. You got to buy more baits to replace the baits you lost. So that's one of the reasons why I don't use braid. There are a lot of people that are very successful for braid, and if you're one of them, keep doing that. You know, keep what works for you, works with you, works for you, and disregard everything else. But that is my personal opinion. I've lost a lot of baits using braid. I've caught a lot of fish using braid. I just find that it doesn't fit into my style of fishing very well. Then you have fluorocarbon. The advantages of fluorocarbon is usually less stretch and also the invisibility of the line. Those are two good features to have. The problem is I have trouble with the line breaking a lot. It doesn't seem to have good knot strength when you're dealing with these heavier weights. You know, smaller conventional baits, it seems to work very, very well. I know some people also, again, like braid, they use a lot of fluorocarbon with a lot of success. I'm just not one of those guys because I get a lot of break-offs on braid. Usually you have to resort to the more expensive stuff. I like to change my line out a lot just to make sure I have fresh line, doesn't get brittle, that kind of stuff. If you kink it, you're not out of a lot of money. With fluorocarbon, you know, usually you got to stick to the expensive stuff. And if you have a lot of reels, 400 capacity, 400 series reels, 300 series reels, you're using a lot of line. Gets expensive. That's just one thing that I try to stay away from is fluorocarbon because of the knot strength. It does have some beautiful characteristics as far as visibility underwater and stretch, but the pros for me, the cons outweigh the pros. I use mono. That is what was my perfect choice. You need to be mindful of the weaknesses of mono. Mono has stretch in it. So the way that I capitalize on that is I make sure I have good form while I'm fishing. When I throw, I like to have my rod maybe 10 to 20 degrees off center of pointing it directly at the bait. That way, when I hit that hook set, I have the full 100, almost 460, 180 degree hook set. You know, if I'm sitting there reeling baits out here and I'm doing this, I only have 40 or 50, 45 degrees of hook set. So your form is extremely important. If you're in a kayak, it's even more crucial, you know, because you can be all cattywampus in a kayak, but you really got to be mindful of your rod position and your form. So that's the biggest disadvantage of braid is the stretch. You can make up for that if you have good form, pay attention to what you're doing, point your rod slightly off of the bait coming back at you at the boat so that you have that full hook set. And the rod does its job. It takes the stretch out of the line and drives that hook home. So that is why I like monofilament. Has great knot strength. Invisibility is not bad. I mean, let's face it, you've got 4 treble hooks hanging from swim baits. 9 is not going to be a deal breaker. Okay, so that's why I use monofilament. So again, if you have some success with braid and fluorocarbon, stick with it. If you're not sure, give monofilament a try. It's cheap, readily available, and it works. I hope this helps.